Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about this beautiful dress you're seeing on my mannequin. I'm going to be showing you everything I did to achieve this look. It's a very lengthy tutorial because everything is detailed. When I mean detailed, I tried as much as I can to cover everything in this video. So this is how the dress looks like in low light. It's a very beautiful dress, so you will not want to miss it. So this dress is a continuation from my last video. Like, this pattern is from my last video, so if you've not seen my last video, please go and watch that video, because that is where I drafted this pattern, because it's the same measurement, so there's no need for me to go and start drafting another pattern when I have a pattern for the same measurement. So the only alteration here is the lacing bar. The last dress I made, the last video I posted, the lacing bar is by the side, so now I'm just showing you that I'll be using our regular lacing bar, which is at the center back. So please, if you watch that video, you really understand what I'm saying here. So I'm just showing that I'll be closing my darts here. So this is the material I'm using for my corset. It's a crinoline merge. That is what I'm using for my transparent corset. So now I've gone ahead to cut out all my pieces, my front pieces and my back pieces. So now this is how my back piece is. So I'm just showing you that I'll be stitching that part out, and the center back will be for my eyelet, like our normal corset back. So this is how it is. So I've gone ahead to label all my pieces. This is my cup. So now I've started joining my pieces together. This is my back pieces. I've gone ahead to join it. I've joined the front also. So after joining, you just take it to your ironing table and give it a nice press. So you just press it very well. So this is my cup. I've gone ahead to join it. So I explained all this process very detailed in my last video. Please go and watch it if you haven't watched it. It's very, very detailed too. So this is how my cup is looking like. So I've gone ahead to draw my style line for my cup caging. So you have caged my cup. The next thing is to flesh it. So this is how it is. So I've fleshed my cup, and after fleshing, you have to iron it very well. So this is, I'm just showing you how I will cover my cup. I'm just showing you how I will sew it. So you just turn it, the main pieces to the lining piece, and turn it. So this is how my cup is looking like. So if you watched my last video, you would know how to get your cup to this part. So now to my center back, you have to put your eyelet. So this is the piece where I'll be putting my eyelet. The other part is net. You cannot put your eyelet there. So I've gone ahead to put 2 boning there, leaving space for my eyelet. So now I've started caging putting boning to my pieces. So after you've put your boning on your pieces, I'm using 4 layers of net to cover it, right? Because the crinoline has a very shiny effect. I don't want it to look too much like crinoline, so I'm just using my net to cover it. So I put 4 layers of net. So this is what I'll do. I'll just go ahead and sew it round, and also sew on my boning line, because I want all my pieces to be together. See, when you finish sewing everything, you not know that it was crinoline net that you use. It should just be like it's the net that you use for your corset. So this is me sewing my net to my crinoline. So now I'm just following the lines on my boning to sew again. I'm just trying to fuse all the pieces together. So I'm just following my boning. I'm sewing as if I'm sewing my boning again. So this part is optional. If you don't want to sew on your boning, you just sew round your piece just to hold the net and the crinoline together, and just ignore the boning lines. But for me, I like to sew on my boning line just to make all the pieces as one. So after doing so, you just go ahead and do the same thing for all your pieces. That is, if you want to sew on your boning line, you just go ahead and sew your net on top of your crinoline. So I've done that. So this is how all my pieces are looking. So this is my front. I did the same thing. Same. Now the net and the crinoline is looking like one. So this is the wrong side and this is the right side. Yeah. So I'll just go ahead and sew the panel for my eyelet. So I'm just measuring how many inches I have there, which is 1.5. So I'll be cutting that part out from the center back, because the 1.5 will be replacing the 1.5 I'll cut out. So that is what I'm trying to explain here. Because if you don't cut it out, your pattern will be too big, because you're adding more to your measurements. So yeah, I'm just trying to confirm what I have, 1.5. So I've ruled where I'm going to stitch on. So I have exactly 1.5. So I'll just cut out that 1.5 on my center back and replace it with the part where I'll be putting my eyelet. So here I am trying to stitch the part where I'll be putting my eyelet. I'm attaching it to the center back. So I'm just showing you how I would do it. So after stitching, this is how you do. You fold it in. You can trim off the excess allowance if you want. Then you fold the allowance in again and pin it. Then you run a top stitch. And your center back is ready. So you just go ahead and do the same thing on both sides of your back pieces. After running that stage, I like to go over my boning again. So I'll be going over my boning. You know, I inserted two boning initially before attaching it to the center back. So I'm going over my boning lines just to hold the front piece and the back piece together. So these lines I'm creating, you can use it for extra boning channel. Like if you want to add your plastic boning to your center back, you can use these lines as a channel for your plastic bone. So this is what I'm explaining, that if you want the center back to be stiff, you can use the lines you created and add extra boning to it. It will give it that frameless. So from my previous video, you noticed that I added extra allowance to my pattern. So I'm just trimming that excess out. So you just follow your actual pattern measurements here. So this is my pattern. This is the actual measurement I need. So the next thing to do is to stitch your front pieces to the back piece. You know, normally you would want to put your pattern right side to right side and stitch, so your stitch will be on the wrong side. But this time I'll be stitching wrong side to wrong side. My seam allowance to be on the outer part. But before I do that, I would like to clean up the edges of my corset. Like this part I'm showing you, the back piece. So I'm just showing you how I will clean the neckline of my back piece. It's just a simple piping method, how you would pipe your fabric. And you know, this crinoline is very sharp. The edges are really sharp, so you want to use a thick fabric so the crinoline will not be harsh on your client, so you cannot penetrate the fabric and start tricking your client. So you have to use a very thick fabric, or you use a masking tape to hold the edges before piping it. So in my last video I showed you how to pipe your corset, your cup hole, and I also have a separate video where I explain in detail how to pipe your cup hole. So it's the same method I'm using here. So all the necessary or the relevant videos, I'll be linking it in the description box. So I'm just trying for this video not to be too lengthy, so I'll be cutting some parts that I think I've already made videos on. Like what I'm doing now, I already have a full video on this part. So this is it. After covering the cup hole, you just cover the armhole. This is what I'm doing. So please, if you're using this corset mesh, please use a very thick fabric to pipe the edges, so that your clients will not be crying, or if you're making it for yourself, so you know wear your dress and you start itching, because this thing is very sharp. It will be tricking you as if it's pin. So if you don't have a thick fabric, just use a masking tape and tape the edges before using your whatever fabric you're using to pipe it. So yeah, I've gone ahead to clean up my cup hole and my armhole. I did the same for the back. So the next thing is to bring your cup. Yeah, I'm a little bit out of frame, but what I'm trying to do is to measure my cup so that I'll insert it. So this is how I'll be attaching my cup. So I have a full video where I explain very well how to do this part, but it's simple. From this video you can also understand what I'm doing here. So just watch the way I'm stitching my cup. Sorry, my camera is a bit far from my sewing machine, but I hope you understand what I'm doing. It's just like running a top stitch. The cup is under and the corset is up. You just stitch on it round carefully. And that channel, you can use it as your underbrow wire if you like. So after stitching, this is how my cup is looking like. Look at how cute it is. So you just go ahead and repeat the same process on the other side. So I've done exactly the same thing. So my cup here is ready. So this method is very simple. So now is to attach my front piece to the back piece. So like I was explaining earlier, you just put it wrong side to wrong side and stitch it to the outer, to the main piece. You know, normally you're supposed to put it right side to right side, but now I'm making it wrong side to wrong side, so the seam allowance will be on the outer garment. So after stitching, you just have to stitch on your actual measurement you're working with. So yeah, I've gone ahead to stitch, so I'm just trimming my excess allowance. So I'll just trim the allowance on both sides. You just stitch it very close to your stitch because you don't want it to be bulky, because if the allowance is big, because of the curve, you might not be able to get a nice curve on your waistline. So after stitching and ironing, you just go ahead with your ridgeline bone that you've covered and place a bone on that side seam you just made. So if you watched my last video, you understand how to do this, because it's exactly the same process. All the pattern is the same, the sewing pattern is the same, everything is just the same. So you just stitch it nicely and carefully because of the curve, so you don't have to rush. You just sew it and make sure that you're covering the seam allowance. If the seam allowance is big, you just have to trim it down so the boning can cover it. So this is how my side seam is looking very clean. So the front and back is looking clean because it was stitched to the front side and is covered with this boning. So at this point my corset is almost ready. So that center back, as I was explaining, the extra stitches I did on this part I'm showing you is for my plastic bone. Yes, my plastic bone. So this is what I was telling you, that you can use it. You can add extra boning if you want. You can add boning on both sides. You know, I initially made 2 boning lines. I used 2 ridgeline bone, and I also created channels for the 2 ridgeline. So if you want, you can put your plastic bone on the 2 ridgeline boning again, just to make it stiff, but I'll just be putting it on the last channel. So I hope I'm able to explain this thing very well, but even if you don't understand my explanation, the video is self-explanatory. So the next thing is to go ahead and clean up the hem of my corset, which is what I've just done. I have a detailed tutorial on how to achieve that. So it's just normal piping, it's not like a big deal, just normal piping. So the next thing is just go and insert your eyelet. So this is how my corset top is looking like on my mannequin here. So the next thing is to attach my yoke. So I'm just checking out my corset top. This is how the back is. That is all for the transparent corset. So if you want to see the remaining part of this tutorial, please check my channel for part 2. Thank you guys for watching. Bye bye.